Hey guys, in this video we're going to talk about, can a seller back out of a real estate contract? Coming up. Okay, so can a seller back out of a real estate contract? Well, yes and no. It depends on how the contract is written. That's the answer, period. If the contract allows for the seller to back out for some reason, and that reason happens, or whatever the contract states, that will give the seller the ability to back out. So here's a perfect example. Let's say the contract is written and it says that the seller can back out if the buyer hasn't shown proof of funds by X date, and the buyer doesn't show proof of funds by the date, then the seller can of course back out of the deal. All right, so it's 100% going to determine if they can or not, depending on how the contract is written. Now, if the seller backs out of a deal and it's not because something was written into the contract, and they just blatantly say, hey, we're not going to sell this property anymore, and we know that we're under contract and that we've signed contracts, but we're just not going to sell it anymore. Well, here's the deal. You could sue for specific performance. You could file a lis pendens. You could record your sales contract on the deed, assuming you did it before the contract expired. All right, so you do have some options. But when you do that, you're not really forcing the seller to sell you the property. Instead, what you're kind of doing is you're just tying it up so another investor or another individual can't come in and buy it. So let's just back up for a second. Why would a seller want to back out of a real estate contract anyway? Well, there's typically a couple reasons. The most common reason I see is because they realize that they are selling it for less than what they could probably get for it elsewhere. And they may not be happy with that current contract, so they're going to want to try to get out of that contract. Well, in that case, you can tie it up to where they essentially can't sell it to somebody else. Okay? Another reason that somebody may back out of a real estate contract if they're on the seller side is if something in their life changes, like they get divorced, or they, get moved for work, right? Or they have a child, or they get sick. And there's lots of reasons why somebody would want to back out. And whenever a seller that I'm working with wants to back out of the deal, our goal right away is to just figure out why. Do they want to stay there? Well, hey, we're not going to try to be the bad guy and force them out of the house. Never would we want to do that. But if they just are all of a sudden thinking, hey, I want to just try to get more money for it, well, that doesn't really fly. We have a lot of time and money invested into making that offer, all right? So there's certain things that you can do to prevent them from fully backing out. It may not close on the date that you want if you are the buyer, but there are some things you can obviously do. But also, like I said in the beginning of this video, what does the contract state? If the contract gives them the ability to get out for this reason or that reason, and then those things happen, then yes, of course, a seller can back out of that contract. So it's 100% controlled by the contract. Now, with this being said, guys, this very reason is why I teach all of my students to learn how to write contracts, or at least understand them. Reason being is he who writes the contract typically writes the rules. So think about it. So if I'm the one writing the contract, I'm going to give myself as the buyer a bunch of opportunities to exit or get out of the deal if needed. Let's say that the repairs come in higher, or the ARV is lower than what I estimated when I wrote the offer, and I do my due diligence, that's the whole point of an inspection period, to do due diligence, and I realize that, this just isn't really a deal. Well, if I'm the one writing the contract, I can write in all these contingencies that allow me to get out. If I'm the one writing the contract, I can also allow or not allow specific reasons that a seller could back out. Okay, so that's why it's always so important to be the one in control and to be the one writing the contract. If the seller writes the contract and they give them the ability to back out for any particular reason, and then they decide later that they want to back out, I, as the buyer, have no ground to stand on because again, it was what was written in the terms of the contract. So just know that he who writes the contract is in control. He or she, of course, is in control. So you want to be the one that learns how to write the contracts and or drafts them and sends them to the seller. It's very, very important. So to recap, guys, can a seller back out of a real estate contract? And the answer is yes and no. It 100% entirely depends on how the contract was written and what options both the buyer and the seller have. All right? That is really what's going to matter. Now, if they do back out and they're breaking the contract, right? Then there are some things that you can do as a buyer to save the deal or prevent them from selling it to somebody else, or cloud the title, however you want to look at it, to kind of get in the way to where it prevents them from selling it to somebody else. But that's a whole nother topic entirely. This video was on, can a seller back out of a real estate contract, right? And again, it's gonna depend. So if you are an investor and you're a buyer and you are wanting to buy properties and prevent the sellers from backing out, be in control. If you are watching this video because you're selling a property and you want to back out of it, read the contract. Figure out if there's any reason, legally, justifiably, that would give you the ability to back out. If there's nothing in that contract that gives you the ability to back out, you probably can't. You can not show up to closing, but again, then you would be in default and you could essentially get sued. And I'm not here to tell people to sue anybody. It's not my MO. But if you sign a contract as an adult, you need to know what you're signing up for. All right? So it's going to depend on whose side you're on. And there's going to be a couple things in there that are obviously going to be dependent, but it's always going to be dependent on the verbiage that's in the contract. So guys, learn how to write your own contracts. In fact, we have a contract generator that we give away 100% free. We give it to all of our students, and we'll even give it to you guys watching this video today. Head on over to discountpropertyinvestor.com, and over there we have what's called a free contract generator. And it will allow you to generate a contract. You can do it in about 2 or 3 minutes. You can even do it from your cell phone. So be in control, all right? Some pro tips before we end this video. When you are generating contracts as an investor, as a wholesaler, as a landlord, whatever, right? Make sure that you are writing these contracts that give you the ability to have control and back out if you need to. So here are some of the best CYA clauses. CYA stands for cover your ass, by the way, to allow you to gain control, but also be protected to where if you have to exit the deal, you can. A couple off the top of my head would be based on partner's approval. So at any time you have to go find a partner and they have to approve it. Could also be, contingent upon a final walkthrough. Well, if you aren't able to go do it or you don't want to go do it, then you don't have to move forward with the deal. A couple others would be, contingent on verifying taxes, title, and value. Well, taxes and title can pretty easily be verified, but value is an opinion. So at any given time, if you say, I don't see value in this deal, you are allowed to back out. But see, these are pieces of verbiage that you put in the contract that give you the ability to back out. So can a seller or can your seller or can you, if you are a seller, back out? It depends. What's in the contract that you are about to sign or have already signed, guys? Go read it. That is going to tell you if you can and how. It's so simple. Again, don't forget, discountpropertyinvestor.com has a free tool to where you guys can go generate your own contract. You can do it from your phone in less than 3 minutes. And it's the contract that I personally used to flip over 600 houses to date. I highly recommend you check it out. It's a free tool. And guys, if you like this video, hit that like button. Let me know you liked it. Please so much, drop a comment down below and subscribe for more videos just like this one. Thanks for watching. Signing off.